Resident Evil has had a long and storied history, a franchise that found its humble beginnings in 1996 on the original PS1 and has since gone on to sell over 110 million copies and gross more than $4.4 billion. It has seen its highs and lows, definitely its lows, but through 25 years there has been one thing that has haunted the series to this very day. The viruses make no goddamn sense. Now, some of you are thinking, well, no shit, mate. A biological weapon that turns people into zombies obviously doesn't make sense. Well, first of all, I don't appreciate the tone, you smug prick. Secondly, I'm speaking from a plot-related standpoint, based on in-lore information that I have shamelessly ripped from the Resident Evil wiki. You see, Umbrella's original reason for getting into the biological weapons game was twofold. One, to remove the need to have a conventional army, and two, to make fat stacks of cash. To that end, they planned on creating something highly infectious with a 100% mortality rate. Now, anyone that has played any amount of Plague Inc. will tell you that a virus that kills super fast is pretty terrible, considering it's difficult to spread a virus if the infected are corpses. From there, some bright spark decided to pivot towards a virus that would turn the infected into flesh-eating cannibals that are stronger and capable of surviving severe organ failure. Okay, that right there? That's already a problem. You want to wipe out a population, so you make them into durable cannibals that technically don't need anything to survive. So what's the plan for getting rid of those things when everyone is infected? Send in the army? Maybe bomb them or something. That's great. One question though, why not just do that from the get-go? And even if you did, there's a chance the bombs don't get them all because you might not blow up the head. You know, the only way to stop these creatures. You send in guys, you run the risk of them getting infected too, which leads to needing more guys and renders the entire exercise completely counterproductive. So far, not so good. But to be fair, they are slow and generally easy to avoid if the corridor is more than a single person wide. That should be easy enough for a cleanup crew to deal with, right? So long as Umbrella don't send in a bunch of freakish monsters. So, turns out Umbrella, through the power of science and blow contrivance, figured out that approximately 10% of the population were immune to the virus they had literally just created, which they obviously weren't happy about. So decided they needed a Hail Mary pass, they needed raw power, they needed monsters. To that end, they created hunters, big dumb frog lizard things that are kind of bigger, stronger and far more bullet resistant. Now, I'm not here to rip into the monsters too much, but wouldn't zombies be enough to deal with the survivors? Oh, right, Resident Evil 1, 2, 3 and 0 are all set solely in the US. Okay, I'll give you that one. But then, the hunters and other assorted monstrosities raise another problem for cleanup. They are, for the most part, feral and attack indiscriminately. It's like that one story of airdropping wolves to kill moose, if the wolves had body armor, Wolverine claws, and were completely bloody feral. Seeing as we're here talking about T, we might as well talk about the other two viruses with the T moniker. Now, T veronica is, in the purest sense, designer T virus. Compared to the basic strain, there isn't really much difference between the two, functionally at least. Both create slavering cannibal... No, screw it, zombies. It's zombies. That's what the game says, so that's what we're going with. Zombies and other assorted monsters. All Veronica does differently is make the mutations more bug-like and make the infected's blood combust in contact with air. So, walking, flesh-eating firebombs. Cleanup will love that. Actually, there is one thing V does better than T. See, to be immune to T, you need the right genes, but with V, you just need to let V get to know V. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that again, I promise. Anyway, if Veronica's rate of infection is slow to accrual, virus will fuse with the host, granting them the benefits of, say, a tyrant without becoming a mindless potato. Two examples of slowing the virus are cryogenically freezing yourself or continuously replacing infected organs with fresh ones, harvested through the black market repeatedly over a number of years until the body acclimates. You know, like a sane person. Thinking about it, it would actually make a pretty interesting super soldier serum, if only it didn't take literal years to get to that point. But as a bioweapon, still kind of crap. I mean, what the hell even is this? All they did was stick a bit of deep sea fish goo into the T-virus and this happened. Oh, they turn to zombies, yeah, but they also become weird pink gooey men. Some randomly mutate claws, swords, shields, guns, and buzzsaws. How? I know this is all about virus not making sense, but this one takes the damned biscuit. And the worst thing is they have the same damn problem as other BOWs, only this time, not even safe at range. God, cleanup must have one hell of an insurance policy. But to be fair to this nightmare of a nonsense virus, the guy that made it did design it to drum up support for counter-terrorism operations. So, well done, I guess? Quick disclaimer, I love this virus, especially the monsters it makes, but even it's not free from the stupidity of Umbrella's plan. Okay, so people are probably aware of the Tyrants, right? We've all seen the Mr. X memes. Now imagine that, but way, way worse. You see, while the T-virus makes things super durable, G makes the infected regenerate aggressively. So the monsters it makes are even harder to take down, and because of this ridiculous healing factor, the bodies mutate a lot. And not like how T mutates where it just eventually stops. No. This keeps going and going and going until it ends up as a weird amorphous blob, which is clearly the natural endpoint of all life. And then you have how the damn thing spreads. It's not like the classic spread by bite or scratch or whatever, it spreads by asexual reproduction. See, it spawns G embryos that it implants orally into the host, which either mutates the body and turns them into monsters, or it tears itself out of the host, killing them instantly. I genuinely don't know which is worse. And at least from the two examples of the first generation G monsters, ones that were injected rather than implanted, they beeline for the closest genetic match to propagate, namely family members. You can hear the banjos a mile off. Now, for the sake of replacing a standing army, it's a complete goddamn nightmare. First, you have to get it to go the way you want, but seeing as it's family oriented, that's going to suck. Then, you have to deal with its babies walking around. And then you have the original monster to deal with, and that would take an absurd amount of firepower, and I doubt even straight up nuking the damned thing would work. There's a reason the guy in Degeneration states it's dangerously unstable and people should just forget about it. Might as well mention this footnote from a spin-off no one played. The TG virus was, obviously, a combination of both the T and G, giving you the best of both worlds. Well, not really. You see, it seems on the surface to just give the host similar abilities to a regular tyrant, but makes their body feminine, even if they're a dude. Oh, TG, it's a pun. While also letting them maintain their intelligence. Also allows the host to manifest a bioelectrical field that blocks small arms fire for some reason, which is actually pretty solid for the whole remove a standing army thing. I don't know, guys, this seems like the best virus Umbrella's ever made. Oh god. Yes, slight issue. If something gets through the BS bioelectrical shield and damages the host, G goes hog wild, mutates them to hell, ending up going blob form. But at least they don't seem capable of infecting other people, so there's that in its favour, I guess? Oh yeah, here comes the good stuff. Unlike everything else so far, this is a parasite and not a virus, so the same rules don't really apply, but I'm still going to talk about it. Found in Spain and Africa, it's kind of like that fungus that infects bugs and makes them suicide to birds, but a bit more focus on using the host to reproduce. Once again, through the power of science. A bunch of science boys created 3 different strains: recessive, dominant, and queen. Queen doesn't really matter for what we're talking about here, but the other 2 are pretty self-explanatory. Dominant allows the host to control the recessive hosts, giving them their own little army of minions. It's pretty great. Also, for some reason, they have a lot of weirder effects like making the host massive, giving them powerful regenerative capabilities, and even letting them go invisible. However, and here's the biggest plus in this video, you can control the monsters it creates. Holy crap, Finally! But for all that, there's always a downside. In this case, the recessive hosts are essentially puppets, so while they are a solid workforce, probably not the best fighters that ever existed. And there's also the small caveat that you need to play host to a dominant plaga to control everything, which probably is going to cause some problems down the line. But even with that, still the best option so far. Before I go any further, the next two viruses aren't for military use or for profit. With that in mind, I'm going to be treating them on slightly different criteria. There isn't a lot of nuance to uroboros. The infected will either become a hideous mutated tentacle monster thing, or if they have the correct genetic markers, they will become stronger and better and become a new race of superhumans. Hang on, is this just eugenics? Let's see. Ubermensch, Advanced Human Society, Natural Selection, Jill is now blonde. Is Wesker just a Nazi? Guys, I think Wesker's a Nazi. Wait, where was I? Oh, right. Virus. The biggest problem here is that, much like the T-virus, there's a very small percentage of people that will have the correct superior genes to merge with the virus and create a super race. Probably much less than T. Now, imagine the rest of the world will become giant pulsating tentacle things that are resistant to all but fire. That's at least a couple billion of these damn things that you now have to deal with. Unless your master race has heat vision, fire breath, or goddamn incendiary farts. P.S. They don't. It isn't gonna last long. Yes, I know I said I already mentioned the other T variants and I'm now talking about one called T Phobos, but there's a good reason for this. Phobos was originally devised as a way of keeping someone alive indefinitely, basically an immortality potion. That was when the head scientist, Alex Wesker, decided she wanted to make superhumans instead. Seriously, what is with these guys and their hard-ons for superior beings? Through some scientific jiggery pokery, she developed Phobos, which is really kind of odd, honestly. From what I can gather, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, the virus can't be spread and can only be injected into the host. Also, instead of making them monsters as the virus works through their body, it only activates when the host experiences extreme levels of fear and kind of instantly mutates them into budget ganados, I guess? But only the men. The women, they just straight up die. For no reason. Never explain it. So, all they need is a person that doesn't feel fear and they're golden, right? You see, the virus only seems to give the suitable, fearless host the ability to detect other infected. That's it. No superhuman strength or speed, just this weird sixth sense. To be fair though, the only host we ever see is a little girl, so maybe there's more to it, but from what we know, this feels like a total bust. We all know Resident Evil 6 will go down in infamy as one of, if not the worst, mainline Resi game ever. It's a combination of every awful part of the formula, but in this stain on the franchise, they created a C virus. I'm going to say this right now, C is possibly the best virus in the series. It is the greatest hits of T, G and Plaga, which kind of makes sense seeing as it's a fusion of Veronica and G. But unlike most other viruses, injection and secondary infection yield completely different results. If you inject the host, they mutate into something called uroboros. This is in essence Ganado 2.0. They are faster and much more durable than the Ganado for a start. They also have the benefit of G's aggressive mutations. However, unlike G's proclivity to continuously mutate and deal blob, C is much more selective. If severe damage is suffered by the head, mutation will occur around the head. If it's the arms, they mutate bug-like appendages, Veronica's influence naturally, and so on. And very occasionally, they will be encased in a cocoon and mutate into any number of monsters. And on top of this, they maintain a level of intelligence throughout, meaning that you get super monsters that will follow orders and can operate a military hardware. Then you have the secondary infected. This is done through exposure to a viral gas that instantly turns people into zombies. Just zombies. There's a caveat to this. Zombies themselves can't infect people, meaning that if you need to clean up for whatever reason, there will be a limited amount of infected to deal with instead of a continuously growing mass of the undead. Now, while I'm gushing about C, holy shit, I'm complimenting something from RE6. There is still the issue of replacing a standing army. Viral gas still has the same trappings as T does, just without the exponential growth problem. And while Joavo would and did make a solid military force, that would still be a standing army. That being said, I don't need to worry about paying or feeding them, so it would at least save some money there. But why did it have to be RE6? There you have it, folks. I just picked holes instead of fictional viruses for like 14 minutes. If you enjoyed that and want to see more, think about subscribing, maybe even dropping a like if you're feeling saucy. And hell, why don't you let me know what you think I should overthink next? I already have a few ideas, but I am more than happy to still use yours. Until next time, I'm the Resident Gremlin, and I'll see you soon.